everyone and welcome. In this episode, I would love to share the Maker's Tote Bag project with you. This is a large tote bag with many pockets. There are 10 pockets in here, 6 outside, so 3 up front and 3 at the back. And then you've got 4 inside as well, so 3 slip pockets and 1 zipper pocket. This is a great bag to take your project with you, whether you are a quilter, a sewer, or a fiber artist. If you like going to the workshop in your town, or if you like to travel, be it in a road trip and you want to bring your project with you, this can be the tote bag for you. And obviously you can use this bag also for various different purpose. You can use this as grocery bag, as library bag, or for running errands if you happen to have to bring so many stuffs with you. There's a little bit of patchwork here to make this project more fun. It's pretty simple. All you need is 10-inch squares, so you can cut some from your scraps or from your fabric stash, or if you have any layer cakes laying around, you can also use that. You can also skip the patchwork, simply follow the measurement of the back exterior and the pocket. It should be the same. I hope you enjoyed this video and your project turned out great. And without further ado, let's get started. First, we're going to work on the patchwork. So prepare your 10-inch squares and then you're going to lay them right side together, just like so. Then you're going to draw a line on both diagonal angles, just like shown here. And you're gonna end up with something like this. Sew a 1/4 inch away from both sides of each drawn line. If using the 1/4 inch foot, you can simply align the edges of the presser foot with the line. Now I'm gonna go ahead and start sewing. And you're gonna end up with something like this. Next, we're going to divide this square into 8 pieces. First, I'm gonna measure 5 inches, which is the center point of this square. And then I'm gonna make sure that my ruler is aligned with that intersection on the center right there. Now I'm gonna take my rotary cutter and cut. Now I'm going to rotate my cutting mat to the opposite direction. Since I'm using the rotating cutting mat, it's a lot easier for me, but otherwise you can just rotate your entire mat, or you can move to the opposite position. This way you don't have to move the fabric. Again, I'm going to measure 5 inches and cut. Alright, next I'm gonna cut on both diagonal lines. And voila, I've got myself 8 half square triangles now. Then go ahead and press the seams open. Trim each half square triangle down to measure 4 1/4 inch. Use your square ruler. Align the diagonal line of your square ruler with the diagonal stitch line of your half square triangle, just like so. Then you want to find that 4 1/4 inch point and then trim your block accordingly. And of course, you want to square up all of your half square triangles. Now we're going to work on the patchwork for the front pocket piece. This is how your front pocket layout should look like, and you should be able to see the measurements on the screen right now, or you can go ahead and screenshot this or refer to the description box down below as well. I'm going to start sewing from these 2 half square triangles. So I'm gonna lay them right side together and then match the seams and place a pin there, and then sew with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. Again, I'm going to press the seams open. Next, I'm gonna sew the other 2 half square triangles. Next, I'm gonna sew these 2 together, and I like to pin all the seams just to make sure that they're all aligned. Then sew with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. And voila, the front pocket is done. Now you're going to lay out the front exterior shell just like shown here. And these are all the measurements for the main fabric panels. Now go ahead and start piecing this together. I'm gonna start from the center here. As usual, you will need to match the seams. You can use pin if you wish to, and sew everything with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. Fuse the front pocket with the fusible woven interfacing that you cut exactly the same size. Once you have fused your interfacing, take the pocket lining piece and lay that right side together, and then sew along the upper edges with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. Press the seams towards the lining, then you want to flip the lining over towards the wrong side, just like so, and give that a quick press as well. Now you want to go ahead and top stitch along the edges. Now we're gonna work on the back exterior. So here I've got my back exterior shell, the pocket, and the pocket lining as well. My back pocket has been fused with the interfacing as well. Then I'm gonna sew this with the pocket lining piece, pretty much the same way as I did the front pocket. Once you've done sewing, turn the lining to the wrong side and then smooth everything out, press it, and top stitch. Prepare the interfacing for both front and back exterior shell. I'm using my favorite combination, which is the fusible woven interfacing with the fusible fleece. However, you can also use other kind of interfacing that you prefer. I cut the fusible fleece 1 inch shorter, so I won't have much bulk when top stitching the final bag and also when sewing the base. Now go ahead and fuse the fusible woven interfacing first according to the manufacturer's instruction. Now take the fusible fleece and fuse that in place, and you can see there is 1/2 inch gap on both the bottom part and the top part of the bag since the fusible fleece is cut 1 inch shorter. Here I've got both of my front and back exterior shells already fused with interfacing and ready to go. Lay the front pocket piece on top of the front exterior shell. So you want to line up the seams on the center. Then go ahead and sew right on these seams right here. I placed a couple of pins to secure everything, and now I'm gonna go ahead and stitch these in place. So you're pretty much doing stitch in the ditch right now, and you're gonna end up with something like this. Now take your back pocket piece, and then you're going to draw 2 lines to divide the pockets. Measure 5.5 inch from the side and draw a line, and then you want to do the same with the other side. So this is how you should draw your lines, and the numbers are the distance measurements of each line. Now lay your back pocket piece on top of your back exterior shell, and then go ahead and stitch along those lines. Now we're going to work on the straps. Cut a strip of fabric measuring 4 by 55 inches. You may have to join 2 strips together depending on the width of your fabric. And you will also need the fusible woven interfacing that you cut only 2 inches wide. You can also cut several strips, and then when you fuse them, just fuse them right next to each other. So you want to center the position of the fusible woven interfacing and then go ahead and fuse that in place. So you're going to end up with something like this. Now we're going to go back to the ironing board, and then we're going to press this strap. First fold the strap in half and then press. Open up the fold and then fold the edges towards the center fold crease and press. And you want to do the same with the other side as well. Now fold everything in half and press. Then go ahead and stitch along the edges on both sides with 1/8 inch of seam allowance. And here I've got both of my straps already sewn and ready to go. So you want to align the edges of your strap with the pocket seams and the seams between these half square triangles, just like so. Secure this in place with a couple of pins. And you want to do the same with the other side, aligning the edges of your strap with the seams of the pocket. Also, you want to make sure that your strap isn't twisted. So you want to start sewing from these edges here, go all the way up, and then you want to stop right on the seams of this top panel. Pivot your needle, and then you're going to stitch to the other side, just like so. I simply follow the stitch line of my strap, and I recommend using your walking foot if you have one. It's just nice so your fabric wouldn't shift around. Once you've got to where the top panel is, you may want to draw a line right there and then pivot your fabric and continue stitching. And right here, I'm gonna pivot again and stitch all the way down. Alright, now we're gonna work on the back strap. So we will do pretty much the same way. However, we need to add a little bit of markings. So here are the stitch lines of the pockets. First, we're going to extend these stitch lines all the way up. So I'm aligning my ruler with the stitch line, and then I'm going to extend the line with my fabric marker. Then I'm going to do the same with the other side. Now from the top here, you're going to measure 1 3/4 inch down, put a little mark there, and this is going to be the point where you're going to turn and pivot your fabric. And of course, you want to do the same with the other side. You're going to place your strap the same way you did the front exterior shell. Simply follow the stitch line and a drawn line there. Then do the same with the other side. Then you want to draw a line on your strap right where the 1 3/4 inch point mark right there, and you want to draw the same on the other side. Then go ahead and sew starting from the bottom edges, pivot and go back down, and the same goes for the other side as well. Now let's work on the base of the bag. So I'm going to fuse this with the Fusible woven interfacing first that I cut exactly the same size. Then I'm going to fuse this with the Fusible fleece that I cut a slight smaller. So I'm going to center this fleece so you can see there's 1/2 inch gap all around for the seam allowance. This way it's not too bulky to sew this. Now we're going to move on to work on the interior of the bag. So let's start with the slip pocket. So you want to have your slip pockets right side together, just like so, and then go ahead and sew the top and the bottom with 1/4 inch of seam allowance. Once you've done that, go ahead and press the seams open. Turn the pocket inside out, smooth everything out, and then go ahead and give that a quick press. Then top stitch along the top edges. To divide the pocket, you're going to draw 2 lines. Simply measure 6 inches from both sides and draw the line, just like shown here. Lay your pocket piece on top of your lining piece about 4 inches away from the top. Pin them in place and then go ahead and sew on the lines and the bottom as well. And you're going to end up with something like this. Now we're going to work on the zipper pocket. So take one of your zipper pocket piece and you're going to draw a zipper template. Simply draw a rectangle measuring 7 by 1/2 inch and then draw a line right on the center and diagonal lines on each corners. And you want to draw the rectangle a couple inch away from the top. And of course, you should center its position. Lay your pocket piece on the right side of your lining piece. And of course, you want to place that right on the center, 2 inches away from the top of the lining. Place a couple of pins to secure everything and then go ahead and sew along the outer lines. Once you've done sewing, you want to cut the center line and the diagonal lines at the corner. And once you've got to the corner here, you want to be careful not to cut through the stitches. Now turn the fabric to the wrong side and open up the cutting lines, just like so, and give this a quick press. Here I've got mine already pressed. Now turn the pocket piece to the wrong side, just like so, and then you want to smooth everything and give this another press. Now take the zipper. Your zipper should be at least 7 inches long. Mine is a slight longer here, it's about 8 inches, but it's okay since it's a nylon zipper. I can always trim the excess zipper. As usual, I'm gonna use my basting tape to baste the zipper. So I'm gonna place a couple of these on the edges of my zipper tape. If you don't have this, you can also baste your zipper with hand stitching. Peel the top layers off, and then you're going to place the template on top of the zipper, and you want to center the position of your zipper, just like so. Then sew all along the edges. I'm sewing this with my walking foot, so I align the edges of my walking foot with the zipper teeth. You can use the normal presser foot or zipper foot, whatever it is that you prefer. Find some kind of sweet spot as the gauge to keep your stitching line even. Once you've done sewing, turn this piece to the wrong side, and if you're using a longer zipper, go ahead and trim the excess zipper off. Now take your second zipper pocket piece and then lay that right side down, just like so. pin everything in place, and then go ahead and sew all around with 1/2 inch of seam allowance. And voila, the zipper pocket is done. Now we're going to work on the magnetic snap. We will attach the female magnetic snap to the back lining piece and the male magnetic snap to the front lining piece. Here I've got my back lining piece, so I'm going to measure 2 inches down from the top and put a little mark right there. And I'm going to do the same with the wrong side. Take a couple scraps of interfacing, or you can also use your fusible fleece. Fuse them on the wrong side where the mark is. Once you've done that, take one of the washer, align the hole on the center with the mark, and then you're going to trace the 2 side lines. Now I'm going to take my seam ripper and cut through those 2 side lines. You can also use scissors, but be careful not to overdo it though. Now take the female magnetic snap and insert the prongs into the holes that you created. Then take the washer and insert that through the prongs, and then you can use either pliers or you can use your thumbs to push the prongs to the side, just like so. And voila, the magnetic snap is done, and do the same with the other one. Now it's time to assemble the bag. Lay your front exterior piece with the back exterior piece right side together, and then use some fabric clips to secure everything in place, and then you're going to stitch on the sides with 1/2 inch of seam allowance. Once you've done that, you're going to attach the base to the bottom of the bag. Fold the base in half widthwise, just like so, and then snip a little bit on that center point to make a little notch, and do the same on the other side. Now take your bag and find that half point from the bottom, so match the side seams first. Create the notches by snipping it with the scissor on each half point. Now I'm gonna go ahead and attach this base to the bottom of the bag, starting from matching the notches first. For this side, I'm gonna match the notch with the side seams. Now I'm going to snip around the corners here with my scissors about 1/4 inch. This will help flatten up the corners a little bit, so it will be easier when you place the fabric clip and when sewing it later. Once you've got everything secure with fabric clips, go ahead and sew all around with 1/2 inch of seam allowance. When sewing this, you want to have the base facing up. When you got to the corners, it may get a little tricky at this point, but with a little bit of patience, you can do it. Now with the lining, you're gonna do pretty much the same thing. Lay the front lining piece and the back lining piece right side together, and then stitch the sides with 1/2 inch of seam allowance. And when sewing the base, you're going to leave about 5 to 8 inches of opening on one of the sides to turn this back inside out later. So here I've got my lining already sewn, and here is the opening hole at the bottom. Now it's time to assemble this back together. Have your lining right side out and your exterior shell wrong side out, and then insert your lining into the exterior shell. Now I'm going to secure everything with my fabric clips, starting from the side seams first and make my way around it. Once everything is secure, go ahead and sew all around with 1/2 inch of seam allowance. Once you've done sewing, pull the lining out, find that opening hole, and then turn your back inside out. I believe this is the most exciting part. As usual, I'm going to use my Hera marker to smoothen up the edges. You can also use iron on low setting. Once you've done that, go ahead and top stitch along the edges. You can top stitch this with either 1/8 of an inch seam allowance or 1/4 of an inch of seam allowance, whatever you are more comfortable with. As usual, I use my walking foot and my needle is the Microtex needle size 9014. That's what works best for me. And I also like to increase the stitch length to 3mm just to make it look nice. The last step will be to sew the opening hole close, fold the raw edges in about 1/2 inch, and then go ahead and stitch along the edges to close this. Once you've done that, put your lining back inside and voila, your tote bag is done. And that's all I have for you today, guys. Thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you next time with another fun sewing project. Goodbye!